Have you ever really struggled to forgive someone? Or maybe you've been on the flip side, just desperately hoping someone would forgive you. Well, today we're going to dive into two incredibly powerful ideas in Islamic scripture, mercy and forgiveness. And we're going to see how they're not just some abstract concepts, but part of this incredible cosmic echo, where what we put out here on earth is literally mirrored back to us from the heavens.
So, let's just start with a question, one that comes straight out of the Quran. It's so simple, but it's also deeply personal, and it cuts right to the chase. Do you not love to be forgiven? Just let that sink in for a second as we jump into our first source.
You see, that question about wanting forgiveness for ourselves is the perfect way to kick this off, because the whole foundation for this discussion starts with a call to action that's aimed directly at us. It's an appeal for compassion from one person to another.
Okay, so what's really fascinating about this verse is the story behind it. It was revealed to encourage people with means, people of virtue and wealth, not to swear off helping their family or the needy or those who had left their homes for God's cause, even if they felt wronged by them. I mean, imagine someone close to you makes a huge mistake. Your gut reaction might be to just cut them off, right? But the instruction here was something completely different.
So, the very first part of the command is to pardon. Now, this is about overlooking the mistake, right? It's about letting go of that right to get even or to hold a grudge. It is an active choice to release that person from what they did.
And it doesn't stop there. The instruction continues with a second reinforcing command, to forgive. So it's not just about pardoning the act itself, but about truly, genuinely forgiving the person. It's this really clear, two-part instruction on how we should handle being hurt. It's like a 1-2 punch of compassion.
All right, so we have this direct instruction for how we should treat each other, but how does this plug into the bigger picture? Let's go to our next slide and see how this human act of forgiving connects to a much, much bigger divine principle, the very nature of mercy. And this brings us to our second source, a saying from the Prophet Muhammad.
Now this hadith, this saying, it doesn't just tell a story. It lays out a universal law for how mercy actually works. It's kind of like a spiritual law of physics, a fundamental rule of the universe that connects our actions with the divine response we get back.
And here it is, the core of it. This isn't just a nice thought, it's presented like a spiritual equation. If you want to receive mercy, you first have to be merciful. It's a condition. And the source of all this ultimate mercy is identified as Ar-Rahman.
And this is where it gets just beautiful. This name for God, Ar-Rahman, the most merciful, comes from the exact same root as the Arabic word for the womb. Think about that. It connects divine mercy to the most basic, fundamental act of life and nurturing and connection that a human being can possibly experience. So mercy isn't some distant, cold concept. It's as intimate and life-giving as a mother's embrace.
Okay, so let's put these two incredibly powerful sources together. On one hand, we have a specific command to forgive. On the other, we have this universal principle about mercy. So how do they combine to create this earth-to-heaven echo?
When you see them side by side like this, it just clicks. The verse from the Quran telling us to forgive is the practical application of the principle that's laid out in the hadith. So think of it this way. The hadith is the why, and the Quranic verse is the how. The hadith tells us that merciful people are shown mercy, and the verse tells us how to actually be merciful in our daily lives. We pardon and we forgive.
It really just boils down to this simple, powerful idea of reciprocity. The hadith actually continues, saying, "Be merciful on the earth, and you will be shown mercy from who is above the heavens." It's not a coincidence. It's a direct relationship. Our actions on the ground trigger a response from the divine.
So we can really think of this as a kind of reciprocal loop. It all starts with the personal choice, that decision to pardon and forgive. That choice then becomes a real act of mercy, something shown right here on earth. And that act completes the circuit, inviting mercy to flow back to the person who started it all. It's this beautiful, self-sustaining cycle of grace.
So all of this brings us right back to where we started. It brings it back to you and to me and to the choices we're making every single day. And here's the bottom line, the biggest takeaway. When we choose to forgive someone, we're not just doing them a favor. We are actually activating a spiritual principle for our own sake. It brings us all the way back to that first question. Do you not love to be forgiven? Well, according to these sources, the path to getting forgiveness is by giving it first.
And that leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. If our actions, our choices to forgive or to hold on to a grudge, are constantly sending out a signal, an echo that bounces back to us, what sound do you want your life to make? Is it going to be the harsh clang of resentment or the beautiful, resonant melody of mercy?